Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. So, some interesting quotes from Tony Khan. Listen, everybody knows I like to give Tony Khan a hard time because, listen, they started off really good in AEW. I think they really did. They benefited obviously from a lot of, angst and frustration in the fan base of WWE. And a lot of, longtime WWE fans who went to AEW, and AEW provided them with what they needed from professional wrestling. And over the years, it's been kind of an interesting ride. You went through obviously COVID and then obviously the CM Punk situation and whatnot. But so we're getting ready for All in Texas coming up in a couple weeks from Globe Life Field. And Tony Khan basically said some really interesting stuff here, and I want to read it to you from the Battleground podcast. He said the following, and this I found really interesting. He basically said there is a very good perception about AEW in 2025. The company is doing great shows. This feels like the best year ever in AEW. The whole year has been a huge uptick for AEW on TV. When you factor in additional fans watching on streaming on simulcast, it's just going fantastic for us. There's a great perception about AEW. Great time to work here. It's also a lot of fun place to work. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm not gonna bore you with the rest of this, is because it's probably just the same regurgitated thing that he's really been saying for years. And listen, you know, I like I said, I give Tony a hard time because what's he supposed to do? He's supposed to talk up his own promotion and whatnot. Give them the love that he feels they deserve. But this is just factually incorrect that 2025 is the best year that AEW's ever had. like, like what? This whole revisionist history, because there is some momentum. I will say that there is some positivity, potentially with Hangman Adam Page winning the championship. You've got some big matches like Okada and Omega. Even though I've given the build a hard time, the fact that they are doing that match, yes, it's been 7 years and it might be set up to fail. That is one of the great feuds in professional wrestling. To get that match on American soil, that means something, okay? That means something to a lot of people. That's unbelievable. Hangman and Moxley have had a great history. The Death Riders thing is not. And then, Mercedes and Tony, it's a dream match. Say what I will about, Mercedes, and you guys give me the hard time that I'm obsessed with her. Like, I don't like the way that it's been built. I don't like the way that they got there, but it's a big match. You've got 3 matches on the show. So there is definitely some momentum. But to say that this is the best year for AEW is just a factual inaccuracy. I don't want to hear about the streaming shit because the streaming shit's not an excuse. This company's been going down the tubes for a while, and there's no evidence whatsoever to support the claim that they're doing well on streaming. And that's the frustrating part to me, because if you look at some of these metrics of where they were, they had better numbers on television during COVID than they do now. Think about that. They had better numbers television-wise during COVID than they do now. They have a much better roster than they did back in 2020. 2021, to me, will always be the best year. So I will make the argument here. Yes, there is some momentum, but I even said it a couple weeks ago. 2025 is still a worse year than last year for them. Last year was not great either. I'll argue that, hey, it's not the best year for AEW. This is the worst year for AEW. And I hope that after All In, or during All In, that they make some of the right creative decisions, specifically Hangman Adam Page winning that world title. Because I think that's going to go a long way to potentially, telling the story and, not alienating some of your casual viewers that you might have been getting in, and alienating some of your diehards. Because there's a lot of diehards in the fan base that are sick of the Death Riders. This should have ended multiple times already. It hasn't. So they've got a lot to fix. I understand what Tony Khan is trying to say, or at least what he's trying to do. I don't know what he's trying to say. I understand what he is trying to do. He is trying to prop up his company heading into their biggest show in North America. They will absolutely cross the threshold of biggest show in North America, probably the biggest gate, because, like I said, they're in a baseball stadium. But the fact that they're struggling to do this, that's alarming. The television ratings will tell you 2021 was their best year. They brought in CM Punk, they brought in Bryan Danielson, they brought in a bunch of big names, and that was some of their best television that they ever did. And then what happened? After that, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk left. And it seems like this company has lost its way, and they are dead set in just delivering great pro wrestling and great pro wrestling. And yeah, it's great that you signed a bunch of great people into your company, but what has that netted you? Your build, yes, I said that those matches on that show sound really great and fine and dandy, but what have you done to get your fan base excited about this show? Some people will say that, yeah, there's great television. No, it's not. No, it's not. Death Riders, they're still running roughshod over this company. It's Timu skinhead bloodline. That's what it is. I don't understand the argument at all. Like, I understand that Tony Khan is going to feed this to his fans to get them hyped up, but there is no factual evidence whatsoever that AEW is doing better than they were in 2021. And there's no evidence that they're even doing better than last year. Maybe some attendance, but they've got scaled down buildings. They're in smaller venues. How is that better? Like I said, I don't think that this is the best year for AEW. I think this is a worst year. And hopefully it's an eye-opener that they need to change some things moving forward in order to, potentially net some stuff out and, be more successful. Because, yeah, it's great that you got the $170, $180 million from Zaslav at Warner Brothers Discovery. But you haven't done anything outside of just doing what you normally do. And I understand you can say alternative and claim that. But when you sign ex-WWE people, again, like I said, Jon Moxley, ex-WWE person, Toni Storm, ex-WWE personality, although she's a little bit different because she developed more and became more of a star in AEW. Mercedes Moné, ex-WWE person, Hurt Syndicate, ex-WWE person, literally doing, it's just, you can't tell me that you're an alternative and then you're bringing in ex-WWE people to fill out your roster. And then your women's division during COVID wasn't great. Women's division during when Britt Baker was running it, it's like they have so much talent in that division, and yet it feels so dull that they're going to create women's tag team champions. Tag team division's as bad as it's ever been. I don't know how you could say with a straight face that this is the best year for AEW, and you look at your tag team division when this company started with Bucks, Proud and Powerful, Best Friends, Dark Order. I could keep going on and on and on. FTR came in COVID. They had SCU. Like, they had loads of tag teams. There was a buzz. There was an energy. There's a reason why there was more people watching when COVID was going on. And I understand that, hey, we were all stuck at home, but also those shows were not pleasant to watch because there was no fans. There's more fans, obviously, but it's a limited number of fans. And when you're trying to sell one of your biggest shows in North America and you're struggling to break out half of a baseball stadium, that needs to tell you everything that you need to know. Again, I understand why Tony Khan is saying this because he's trying to drum up excitement for his fan base, but he's lying through his teeth. He is absolutely lying through his teeth. 2025 is not the best year for AEW. It's the worst. Those are the facts, man. You guys can barrel me in the comments and tell me that I'm wrong. There is not a single metric anywhere that tells you that AEW is doing very great in 2025. They've got momentum, but that doesn't mean shit. They've got a better roster than they did over the course of their years. And that doesn't mean shit. What have you done this year that has really been inherently memorable? There hasn't really been a lot of stuff inherently memorable about this year. And maybe they do something in 2 weeks in Texas with Adam Page. If they don't, I think that might be the death nail in this company. They have to crown Hangman. They absolutely have to crown Hangman. Like, Mercedes and Tony, I think they're in a no-win situation in that regard, because if Mercedes wins, I'm going to be mad either way, because, like, hey, either you're sacrificing this win streak of Mercedes and all that she's been doing for Toni Storm, who doesn't need it, or Mercedes is winning another championship. So really, that result is null and void. Okada and Omega, I don't really care who wins that. It's going to be a great match. But really, the story of AEW for years to come, and really the point that we're going to be talking about for years to come, is how does that main event, presuming it is the main event, how does that go? Does Hangman beat Jon Moxley? Because if he doesn't, God help everybody in that company. So, again, I think this is the worst year of AEW. They could turn it around in the next 6 months, but it hasn't been good by every metric imaginable. Tony Khan is lying through his teeth. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.